Hi all, Hef here again from Epic Rides and Tours Sidecar Adventures. Got together a little video here, just some hints and tips about batteries. I take the battery out of Swampy to give me a little extra room for manoeuvre when removing the gearbox for an issue that, basically put Swampy off the road. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find something useful in it. I've added a little bit of a tip for a cheap way of charging your battery while you're not using the bike. So I hope it proves useful to everyone. Anyway, the garage is that way. Righto, the job does get more and more complex. To get the gearbox out, you need to remove the starter motor. So in order to remove the starter motor, it's probably best to disconnect the battery before you set fire to your garage. Okie dokie. So in order to get to the battery most easily, remove the seat. As you've probably noticed, this bike has a bench seat, and so the way of removing this is that at the front end of the seat you see that fixed bolt which is surrounded by a little rubber bushing that goes through that hole, and there's a nylock nut 17mm that fits in amongst all this gubbins. So the other part of fixing the seat back in, these two little doohickeys are for these two watsits to fit. Okay, so you put the back end of the seat down first. These pads are all sort of semi-fixed, and you fit the ends of the tabs into their matching doohickey. So once you've undone the 17mm nut from underneath here, you can lift up the front of the bench seat and pull it forwards slightly to disengage the tabs from the doohickeys. I hope that makes sense. Now I've had a look at the battery, and you can see this is the positive side, and there's an awful lot of metal frame around it. And actually it's not the positive side, this is the negative side. Wake up, Ev. Okay, so it would really be too easy to touch down to earth and cause a bit of a conflagration. So I'm disconnecting the ground wire between the battery and the gearbox. Okay, so that should make life a bit easier. You move that terminal well away from anything, or tape it up with Sparky's tape to make it safe, so it doesn't sort of flop around and accidentally ground down while you're working on something metal. So we've got this onto the top of my tool trolley, which is a nice place to have it. It's stable, and the battery's not going to slip without a bit of force because of the rubberized top. A grotty piece of rag will do the job very well, and into the bucket with some lightly soaked water, and get in there around the post, the threaded socket, and also around the terminal. It comes off quite well, quite easily. You can even dunk the terminal into the water, bring it back and give it a bit of a scrub with your grotty rag. You could use one of those scouring pads, and to get into the little corners you can actually use a a small screwdriver, one of those little jeweler's screwdrivers that you get in the packets of 6 or so, and use that to get into all the little corners, and then give the battery itself a clean up. Now there's a nice bracket system that holds this battery in place, and point to note with this particular model, you've got 2 sets of terminals. Okay, so you can put the battery in whichever way round you like to. I don't know, if you put the battery in one way round, you will find that the positive terminal will be on the right hand side of the bike and the negative terminal on the left. And if you turn it round, you'll find that the positive terminal is on the right and the negative terminal is on the left. So it doesn't matter which way round it goes, folks. Make sure you know which way round it goes before you stick it back in. There's a lump of rubber that sits underneath to protect it to a degree from vibrations from the engine, from the road. In Australia it's mostly the road. Yeah. But I'm not complaining, I love Australia. Yeah, been here for 35 years, and that's a few years longer than I've spent in any other country. Righty ho, and there's a bracket somewhere. Yep, here we go. You can give that a clean as well. Just whenever you take anything off the bike, make sure it's clean before you put it back on, and make sure the place it came from was clean. Your bike will thank you for it. Okay, anything less, in my humble, is mechanical abuse. Okey-dokey, so with the correct tool, one of these U-Butte Allen keys, I really like the ones with this sort of knobbly end. You can actually get them into spaces where you need to be on a bit of an angle, and they don't chew up the top of the screw or bolt you're trying to remove as a result of that bit of angle you can get. So okie dokie, we've removed our terminals, and I have 2 wires here. Now what I've got to be careful of is, when I used one of these before, I found that the red wire was actually intended to go on the negative pole of the battery, and the other wire was intended to go on the positive. Now standard wiring says red positive, black, white, yellow, green, purple with pink polka dots, whatever goes on the negative. So before you connect it up, check your battery charger is going to connect the right way round. It's only happened to me once, but I don't want it happening again, because as you'll appreciate, wiring a battery the wrong way round makes things go boom. And of course, before you reassemble it, make sure that the outside of the battery, including the terminals, is dry. Now this is going to be better than this to do the job. It actually reaches in and gets into the top of the screw, and you can make sure that it's good and tight. Absolutely no point in having a post or terminal on a battery if it's not tight. It will give you grief. Well, I bought these at one of our local popular inexpensive auto parts shops. You'll notice the bullet connector on this end. That will actually connect to a similar socket and plug arrangement on most modern battery chargers. Now, if like me, you sometimes go a couple of weeks without the bike being started up, the battery's often dead when you get to it, and continually letting it go dead like that can destroy the battery and cost you an absolute mozza in keeping replacing them every few months. So I found these, and I'm going to fit one to Swampy's battery when I reassemble her after I get the gearbox back. And it's not really hard. Got the right kit. Okay, those loop type connectors. I have some spade type connectors as well, but I'm not really happy with them because they can come off if you're not on top of your game, or if you're just too lazy that day. Anyway, I'll get me proper little tool and start setting this up. So here's my battery charger, and here is the lead which goes to the battery with the crocodile clips on this end. Okie dokie. We have a red wire going to this half of the plug, and on the other side we also have a red wire which goes to the red crocodile clip. Okay, so that means that this thing isn't wired the wrong way round. We can now proceed. Okay, so first off we find the wire cutter. It's actually written there, I don't know if you can see it, but I can, and I'm the person who matters. And you don't pull it right in, you just use it to scrape the insulation off, and I haven't done this in a long time, so you'll see my my skills have abated somewhat. Okie dokie, and then we find the terminal that we want to use, and we put it into, whoop, not like that, you don't. We put it into the appropriate spot. Now you see that there are 3 marks there, 1.5, 2.5 and 6mm, and I'm going to hit it with the 2.5 bit, make sure that doesn't come apart. Right, and then you repeat the process with the other wire. Not really rocket science, but unless you do this regularly, like I don't, you need some practice. There we go. And you can see I need some practice, eh? Right, try not to get these things too near to your fingertips, because when you close them your fingertips will get a nasty little nip. There you go, and we get the battery. Now this brand of battery has some nice features. These terminals are actually removable, and they actually have 2 options as to where to put the securing screw. It's on the side or on the top. Now when I got this out of the bike, I found that the screws were on the top. Now you can't actually access them. You just can't reach them because there's a dirty great big lump of metal in the way. So what I'm going to do is to fit them to the sides. Now with my newfound little charging lead, I'm going to fit them to, probably can't see it, the bottom screw. That should keep them out of the way, and let's see how it goes. Rightio. Now rather than fit this directly to the terminal, we'll do it this way, because on previous attempts I've actually found that this comes undone after a while and the wire can move backwards and forwards, and again that's not a good thing, okay, safety wise. So we'll connect it there. Another reason for doing things this way is because as you add accessories, this terminal here tends to fill up with wiring and connectors and stuff, and again you don't want it really, make that nice and tight, you don't want it to actually be like that. The less stuff you have up here, the less in the way of troubles you're going to have. And then we do the same to the other terminal, and run it in. And make that nice and tight. Okie dokie. So there we go. Now what happens there is this runs out the side of the battery. When it's in the bike, these will come out this way, and I can connect them to the matching connector on my charger, like so. That means, once I've plugged the charger into the mains, of course, that means that this battery is going to remain on charge 24/7 while I am not using the bike. It's a great little addition, not too hard to do, and yeah, I highly recommend it. Being the previous owner of multiple Duff batteries, this has got to be the way to go. And then the last thing is I will put these terminating screws on the sides of the battery rather than the top, or the sides of the battery terminals, sorry, instead of just on the top. It makes it much easier to access those screws and remove any wiring, any power, cabling, just for safety's sake. When you're working on electrics, batteries can discharge fully in a very short time. Right, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some ideas from it. I particularly like the highly inexpensive way of charging the battery while it is still fitted to the vehicle. Yeah. point 2 is I'm not a qualified mechanic. I just learned my mechanicking at the side of the road in the early days when the earth was young. And point 3, safety. Can't exaggerate the need for safety, not with batteries. If you connect the wrong terminal down to earth, something is going to go boom. It will often go boom in a very expensive manner. So when you're removing any battery from any vehicle, remove the negative terminal first. Okay. The vast majority, indeed, I think all vehicles produced since about 1950s, 1960s have been negative earth. So check to see if yours is a negative earth. It's quite easy. You look for the big thick wire between the battery and the bodywork of the vehicle, and you'll usually find it attaches to the negative pole of the battery. When you're putting the battery back in, attach the negative cable to the battery last. So the whole idea behind that is that if you remove the the negative terminal or wire, there is no voltage difference between the bodywork and the positive terminal of the battery. So if you do slip and you whack the bodywork or frame, chassis, whatever, with your spanner, while it's still in contact with the positive terminal, there will be no kaboom. And pretty much the same happens for when you put the battery back. So if you put the positive terminal or connect all the positive wires to the positive terminal first and you slip with the spanner, there will be no kaboom because the bodywork is not attached to the other side of the battery yet. I'm sure we all like kabooms in the right place and the right time, but in your garage with your 30, 40, 50,000 love of your life, it is not the right place to go kaboom. Don't need to tell you that, do I? Alrighty. Look, if you enjoyed this, liked it, or thought it was informative, please click like. Subscribe so that whenever we put another video up, sometimes I don't do this regularly. Sometimes I'll put a couple up in a week. Sometimes I will not do anything for a couple of months. So if you do subscribe, there's a little bell icon down there somewhere, and click on that, and that will give you notifications that we've uploaded yet another vid. Please, if you find it useful, anything in our videos useful, share it on whichever social media platform you want to, and other people will benefit. Well, thanks for watching this far. You're very brave. Cheers for coming along and listening. I'll see you next time.